100% right, every time. The McClaskey Excellence Institute brings you The Operations Experts, a podcast with hosts David McClaskey and Billy Schaefer. Delight your customers, reduce errors, and increase repeat business. Take your operations from ordinary to extraordinary. Welcome to the Operations Experts podcast, where leaders who have achieved operations excellence share how they did it. And our guest today is Chuck Gault of Max Coating. Hi,
Welcome
Chuck.
to the show, Chuck.
Hey, great to see you guys.
And I've known Chuck for a long time, and it's really fantastic to see what he's done to create operations excellence within Max Coatings. And I'm really excited to have him share some of those things.
Chuck, why don't you tell us a little bit about Max Coating, what you do there? I mean, I know you do 1,000 things there, but if you can give us the overall, your position, what you serve, the size, just give us that nuts and bolts about Max Coating.
Happy to share. So we're a metal finishing company. We put a rust-proof coating on metal components. That coating is called ecoat or electrocoat. Our customers are the tier 1 and tier 2 suppliers to the automotive industry. We're part of that automotive supply chain. So the things that we paint or that we coat end up at the assembly lines of places like BMW and Mercedes and Nissan and Toyota. We're in Birmingham, Alabama, so we're in a good spot for the automotive manufacturers that are around us. We've got 60 employees, and we've been doing this for 21 years.
Wow. So what you're saying is the people that you're selling to are just, small customers like BMW and Mercedes. That's
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Billy. We actually work for their tier 1 and tier 2 suppliers. So we're part of that supply chain. So often we're a tier 2 or even a tier 3. So a lot of the folks that we work directly for, the ones that write us a check and pay us every Friday, they're not BMW, Mercedes, and Honda. They're the folks that are selling parts to BMW, Mercedes, and Honda. So we're, like I said, we're part of that supply chain.
That's incredible. I love this. It's such an amazing thing in American and all across the world businesses, how one good person goes to another, then that supply chain, it's a simple word that everybody hears, but it's so cool to hear about. But
It is because, we have our team members here. If you drive a BMW or Mercedes, which is a pretty fancy car, our team members here, if it's manufactured or assembled in the Southeast, it's very likely that somebody here at Max Coating in Birmingham, Alabama, touched those parts and got them coated properly before they ended up at the assembly line.
One thing that we want to talk about is with this this operational excellence that we really get into is strategic planning is such a key. And so tell us, what's one of your strategic plan goals that you're real excited about this year?
So, excited may not be the right word, but we're wanting to add some business. We're wanting to add some customers. And the reason I say it that way, the automotive industry, they crank out car after car after car. The volume of cars that are manufactured, it's quite surprising. When somebody says, hey, they're making 800 Honda Pilots a day or 600 Honda Odysseys a day, those numbers are amazing to me. Those numbers are flat, I would say. So we're not hearing about Mercedes or Honda or Nissan working extra shifts or working over the weekend or staying open for an extra week during the summer. The automotive industry, like probably a lot of things around the country, relatively flat. So one thing that we're focused on strategically is adding business, but we're very confident that we can because we're performing at a high level. And I think that's what we're here to talk about today, some of the things that have helped us get confident that when we go knock on a potential customer's door, they're going to like what we have to offer. But that's sort of where we're headed strategically, is trying to add a little bit of business.
That's terrific. And Chuck, you've achieved operations excellence, and I know you had to face some hurdles getting there.
Sure.
And our listeners would like to hear, how did you overcome these hurdles, and how did our Achieving World Class Results class, and you're an Achieving World Class class alumni, how did this help you overcome those hurdles?
Well, number one, I don't know that I can say we've achieved excellence. We're aiming for excellence. So I don't want to get the big head and thinking that we're there. I don't know that you're ever there. That's part of continuous improvement. But when there's no question that having everyone in the organization, every one of our 60 team members focused on the same thing, focused on the key customer requirements, focused on the mission, that's a game changer. We did not have that sort of clarity even 4 or 5 years ago. It's something that we've achieved in the last few years, and it's just a game changer. That is the biggest thing. When I can, walk down the hall, walk out on the shop floor, and know that all of our team. They're thinking about the same things. They're thinking about the things that we're trying to do for our customers. And it sounds simple, but we managed to operate for 15 or 16 years without that sort of clarity and focus. Now that we've got it, there's no question that our operation has improved significantly.
That is terrific to hear.
Yeah, Chuck, you've done such a wonderful job of just getting rid of gray in what you're doing. Getting everybody on the mission and the values. Just understanding that really starts to align everybody. And we always preach, get rid of the gray. That's how you run a great business. And Chuck, I know you don't want to say you've achieved excellence, but I'm going to toot Chuck's horn. Chuck is, if he hasn't achieved it, he is about as really close as you're going to get. I know he won't say that, but I'm going to say it as the cheerleader for Chuck today. So I have to put that in there. We're not going to let you get away with being humble today.
Sure.
So when you took the class, what were some principles that really stuck with you?
So, I mean, you mentioned eliminate the gray, and one of my favorite examples, and I think that made such an impression on me that first day, it was a 2-day class back when I did it back in 2019. But the idea of the conditions of employment, that really resonated with me. That there's a slide, and I think Dave picked the slide, or maybe you did. Somebody picked this slide. It looks like it's from the 1970s, maybe, of a guy sitting at a table with a future employee. But it feels very old school. But he's having a conversation with a new employee. They're talking about going over these 70 points and spending an hour and a half to make sure everybody's on the same page. That floored me. And I thought, that is where I want to be. I want to be able to connect with the team members, the minute they start and they understand the expectations. We were a classic company that we would hire somebody, put them out on the shop floor and say, hey, do what the guy next to you is doing or the gal next to you is doing. That's not an effective way to be clear about our expectations. Right now, we have 18 components of our conditions of employment. They are modeled exactly after the PALS model. Mm-hmm. And I'm very proud of that. Ours it's about a 20 or 25 minute conversation with a new employee. But I think it really differentiates on the front end that we're different. Before we had that conditions of employment, we would have folks show up, like from a temp service maybe. They would walk out on the shop floor, spend an hour or two, and then maybe not even make it to lunch, just disappear. You heard those stories. Well, they were happening at Max Coating. Those have all but gone. We don't have that anymore. And I think it has to do with that connecting with people on a personal level right at the beginning of that employment to let you know, hey, this is a different place. I mean, we are trying as a team to be respectful to you, and in return, we want respect, back. It's just that has made a huge difference with our work team.
Oh, that's great. And Chuck, we've already referred to it, but the mission and the use of mission and key customer requirements.
Right.
I mean, you have created a really role model example in Max Coating, and really use it every day. Could you share with our listeners what it is, how it works, and how it impacts your team members every day?
Sure. So I mentioned we're part of that automotive supply chain, and our key customer requirements are 100% quality, 100% accuracy, 100% delivery. Just in time, just in sequence. You guys may have heard those terms. So we're kind of deadline driven, but boy, the expectations in the automotive world are sky high. So when we start with quality, 100% quality, I mean, they're expecting everything we do, everything we ship back to them to have the correct coating on it. Okay. No mistakes. Again, their expectations can be through the roof. They measure, I think I've shared this with people before, they measure mistakes in parts per million. So they're expecting you to ship them 1 million pieces and not have a mistake. It is pretty high. So the only chance we've got of that is letting the team know that's who our customers are, that's who their expectations are. We've got to do everything in our power to try to meet that. Now, we're probably not going to meet it. We're human. There's going to be mistakes that happen, but that shooting or aiming for that high level and letting the team understand that's exactly what we're doing. We're aiming for excellence, aiming for excellence. I think it was good old Vince Lombardi. At least he's attributed, I think, to that quote as much as anybody. Aiming for excellence, or aiming for perfection, you achieve excellence. And so that aiming for perfection is a big part of that. Those key customer requirements, David, are actually out on a scoreboard on our shop floor. So as far as letting the team know, what we expect, we're measuring ourselves every day to those 3 key customer requirements: 100% quality, 100% accuracy, 100% delivery. They can see through a color-coded scoreboard if we're achieving those goals every day. And we kind of have a little accumulation chart next to it. So you guys could walk in, Billy, you and David could walk into our shop today and see at a glance, okay, these are the areas that Max Coating needs to tighten up because you've had a yellow here and a red over here. Scoreboard's usually green, which is great. We're doing some things right, and we'll let the team know as long as that scoreboard's green, good things will happen around here. But when we do have a yellow, we do have a red, we need to take some action.
Wow, that's good. And you all just do such a fantastic job of getting everybody aligned to a common direction so everybody can work together towards your mission.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. So, that's what we talk about with focus excellence, where we talk about those mission and key customer requirements. One of my favorites that we go through is that process. So, how are you feeling in the process world? What's a process that you've kind of rolled out to your team right now and gotten to 100%?
Let's see. Writing a process can be tricky. And it was very humbling. I've had a couple of humbling experiences when I did try to roll out a process. If you've got a second, I can tell you a story about one that went poorly, and it
Yeah.
might emphasize when you do get it right. So we had it was early on. This is way before I was exposed to the PALS Excellence program, but we had a customer that was very concerned about the surface, the A side of a part, the part that would be visible on the vehicle. However, they had zero concerns about the B side, or at least that's the way it was conveyed to me. So when we put our process together, we let our team know A side, it's got to be perfect. B side, don't worry about it. So 3 weeks go by, and then we get this email with a picture of a part that had an egregious, looked like a piece of packing tape maybe stuck to it. Went through our paint process, went through our oven, got baked on. I mean, it looked awful. I mean, it was embarrassing to me to see this picture come back. Hey, this is what Max Coating shipped to us to bolt to somebody's car. You got to explain yourself. And so, I'm like, I'm a process guy. Okay, I know we've got a process in place for this. And I marched out on the shop floor and I said, so explain to me, how this could have happened. And the operator looked at me. That was me. This is in the early days, and I was out there on the shop floor a fair amount, looked me dead in the eye and said, you told us not to worry about the back of the part. And I just stopped right then. And I got a real lesson in, okay, that was the person you want on the shop floor. They were following the process that I had laid out, but we hadn't given them any parameters. We hadn't let them know, within why, what's going on, what's the big picture, what's the ultimate goal. And they followed those rules, ABC, and produced that result. And I had to bite my tongue and say, you're doing great, but we've got more to talk about today. So
Oh,
anyway,
that's
that's that.
wonderful.
Yeah, well, it was a tough moment, but that's been my experience with writing processes. It's you have to sort through those things, but it was a very humbling moment. To me, the course teaches that writing of the process is on management. That's on the folks that are calling the shots. And so you have to put some effort into making sure that you're very clear about your intentions. That was a very humbling moment.
It sounds like you nailed the part about getting people to follow the process to 100%.
You know,
Not so much writing the process to 100%.
Process was terrible. The team member exceptional in following what she had been asked to do. Absolutely.
That's
Well, it's
wonderful, though.
Yeah.
always good to have parts of it. Now, you just described a great leadership challenge of how to, when you're getting process to 100%.
Right.
Can you describe some of the other leadership challenges and some of the lessons you've learned and would like to share? If you're a leader leading this, these are some challenges you're going to face. Here's some I faced, and here's how I overcame them.
Sure. Okay. I think the biggest one, Dave, is, I visited you in 2019, got
Yeah.
that visit. It was great. I left so inspired.
Mhm.
Came back. At the time, we were operating 2 locations. And I wanted to tell both teams, hey, look, this is a great way for us to elevate our business.
Right.
Listen, the things I've learned at PAL Sudden Service, the Excellence Institute, this is really going to improve our game. And I got sort of a nonchalant,
Yeah.
just shrug of the shoulders.
Yeah.
And I think what they were thinking was I had just brought them another flavor of the month. As the leader of the
Right.
company, hey, I read this book. Hey, I heard this podcast. Hey, I've been to this seminar. I went to this breakout session. And I think they had gotten a dose after dose after dose of that.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so the
Right.
fact that this was so real to me, they'd heard it before. That
Mhm.
was an issue. That was a problem that I had to overcome. But I stayed with it. Okay, I sustained it. I talked
Mhm.
about it. And 6 months went by, and a year went by, and then I believe we upped our game and actually got you on a private call. Did a private session. As soon as my management team bought in, it was a game changer. It was an absolute game changer. And as opposed to that friction I was feeling about, hey, Chuck's just got another idea, just let him, it'll definitely just go away, give it time. They totally, became the drivers. And I think that was the exciting part for me, was when plant manager, operations manager, when they got involved and said, hey, this is what we want to do as part of, our role with Max Coating. That made the difference. So anyway, that would be a lesson I would share is can't do it alone. You got to get buy-in, and you got to recognize that buy-in. And if you suspect that they haven't bought in, they probably haven't, because But then when they do buy in and they are pushing it, and it's so humbling for me where my office sits. I can hear
Mhm.
what's going on in the conference room, and
Mhm.
I've heard Richard Paget, our plant manager, conduct sessions with the team, and it's like, oh my gosh, I wish I had a recording device because he could be teaching that. It's like a seminar, it's like a breakout
Mhm.
session, but he has learned that over time, from the exposure that we've given him to the McClaskey system. So.
Oh,
Oh, great. I remember your private class, and it was a great experience. I mean,
It
great
it was.
insight from your leaders, and it
Right.
was great to see everybody buy into that.
Yeah, I think that helped put us over the top without a
Yeah.
doubt. Yeah.
I want to pause here and let everyone know that everything you're hearing now is taught in our Achieving World Class Results class. We would love to have you and your team in the class so we can help you reduce errors and increase repeat business. The class will enable you to take your operations from ordinary to extraordinary. Sign up now at mcclaskeyexcellence.com/AWCR.
We've been asking you all these questions. This is supposed to
Yes.
be a conversation. I think we got to work on that. But what's one question you'd like to ask to us? Let's give you the opportunity.
All right. And again, this may not be it's a little bit off script, but I love this moment. I remember. I'll never forget it. 2019. I'm up at David's class, and he hands this $10 bill, and he says, "Go have lunch at Pal's." Okay. And that was a part of it. And I want to tell you, that was one of the coolest things, was to get to stand inside and see what the team was doing and how they took orders. And you encouraged us to get out our cell phone and time them and all that. But then you
Right.
said, "Hey, if you want to go inside, meet me at the dumpster." And I thought, that's a bad idea, David. I don't know that you want 15, 20 folks standing at the dumpster waiting for you to let us in the building. And I guess my question is, and I suspect was that a strategic move on your part? Because that dumpster was immaculate. That dumpster was taken care of just like the rest of the building. And it floored me. I mean, it made a real impression on me.
I'm so glad I did. No, it was very, very intentional because
Yeah,
almost all restaurants treat their dumpsters like a trash dump.
sure.
Uh-huh.
And if you're looking at, particularly for a restaurant like Pal's that's a drive-through only, you're going to judge the cleanliness of the kitchen by what it looks like outside. But you're going to look at everything outside: the parking lot, the grass, the dumpster.
Right.
And so that's kept as clean as the kitchen. In fact, one thing that if you remember, the next thing we asked you to do is open the dumpster doors and look inside.
You're right.
Remember
Yes.
that? And it
Yeah, I
looked
do.
neat and clean. It didn't
I,
smell
it,
because
it
it was
was,
cleaned out.
yeah.
And the other thing it illustrated right away was that this is not just a processes to 100% for show.
Mhm.
Like, let's get the hamburger right. Okay, yeah. This is no, everything that affects the customer is going to be to
Right.
100%.
Sure.
And it's like you can't look at anything. When you went in the store, everything was perfectly in everything was in its place and everything was clean.
Right.
And it gets the idea that no, we just really can't concentrate on the 80%. We really got to get everything affects key customer requirements, and we've got to get that to 100%. So I love your observation, and no, it was very strategic to start
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. It made quite an impression on me.
Well, I and appreciate what you brought up. Well, of course, even though you're doing great at extraordinary operations now, what's your biggest operations challenge right now?
So we've definitely felt the success, and there's no question that we know, because the team's focused on the key customer requirements and the mission. We know that's a component of why we're
Mhm.
doing better. I shared with you guys at another time. I think 2024 was the best year in the history of Max Coding, financially, operationally, making our customers happy. It was the best year. 2025 has been just as good operationally, not quite as good financially, and it has to do with, again, a little bit of flatness in the market, the industry that we're in. The challenge I'm nervous about is sustaining it,
Mhm.
making sure that we stay creative with how we share this. We don't have a lot of turnover, which is great, but we do have people that come in from time to time. We have people that leave from time to time. We got to make sure that there's this continuous cycle of education about here's what we do and here's how we do it. I would hate to ever have a team member go back to the days when we just stuck them out on the shop floor and said, figure out what the guy next to you is doing and do that. That breaks my heart that we were actually that kind of company. And I want to make sure that we're the opposite end of that.
Oh,
Oh, that's
when it
fabulous. And maintaining the gain is always one of the key things.
Sure. And it's tough. I mean, it's tough in anything is maintaining it. So, but we've done some things. We've got some things that are active in place, as far as we've got 60 team members. We've got groups of 10. Everybody's getting a half hour every 6 weeks of sort of a follow-up program. We've got our own set of slides that are a lot like your AWCR class, where we're going over those things with the team quite
Oh,
intentionally. And
that's
I
fascinating.
think it's working. We need to test and check and follow up and observe and make sure that we're getting it done right. But we're doing our best.
Oh, that is terrific. And Chuck, you kind of experienced and engaged us in all the full quadrants. First of all, you came to a public class to see what the
Yes.
material was and said, okay, that's terrific. And then, okay, I could. And the second part was, I really need to get my leaders on board.
Mhm.
And try as I might, the Achieving World Class Results class, having a private class just for max coatings was the
Right.
route you went. And you were just talking about the impact of that. And that
Huge.
helped get everybody on board.
Sure
And
did.
then you did follow-up consulting that, an
Did.
hour or so a month for several years did follow, and you asked very, very insightful questions.
Sure.
So if somebody was asking you, another leader was asking you, does this full engagement actually, all four parts of it, the public class, the private class, the follow-up consulting, what kind of impact did it have on you and what we might advise another leader?
We sort of stumbled onto that formula that you just outlined. I am so glad we did. And I think
Yeah.
it actually makes really logical sense to hear you lay it out that way. That's exactly what had happened. It was not intentional on our side. I counted, and Greg Crabtree encouraged me to come up there and see pals. It's funny, you need to hear this. It was actually another one of his clients that I was at a different meeting. He said, "You need to go see pals." And I said, "Why?" He said, "It'll make you feel terrible about your operation." And I thought, why would I want to go do that? He goes, no, you need to. And it was just one of those kind of guys that I was like, okay, I trust you. But
Okay.
that's what, it got me up there. So the public class, thank goodness that happened for me. But then the private class, you're right. And I remember, Max Coding, we're not a huge company. So writing a check for the private class was a financial commitment, but
Mhm.
it was the game changer. It was, it's the return on investment is, you don't even, I mean, it's off the charts. It's exponential. It got the key folks on my management team involved and believing and buying in and becoming actively part of it. And then you're right. Don't discount that once a month we had to check in with you, because I'm the kind of guy that did his turn paper the night before it was due. Stayed up, slept through the night or whatever.
Yeah.
But if we had a call on the 15th with Dave McClaskey, I had to get my part done before the 15th. So I think that was a nice follow-up, is that
Mhm.
deadline. There's people on my team that get it done. They had your homework done the day it was assigned. I didn't. I was the guy that waited till the last day. But still, there we were on the 15th. We were ready to talk again about what was next. That was great. And then, you mentioned the fourth part. I would say me being a part of that alumni class that you mentioned, tuning in. Dave, I took notes like it was the
Mhm.
first day I was up in Tennessee.
Oh,
It was
fantastic.
really well, and it's one of those things. I think, sometimes when you hear things, even the same thing, the second or third or fourth time, it sounds fresh and new. And I got all kinds of new ideas to challenge my team just based on sitting through that alumni class. So I think they all work together. So yeah, it's been good for us.
Oh,
Great.
thank you for sharing that. You've made such excellent use of it.
Yeah, and
Appreciate that.
you talked about the ROI of this. We love the process, we love the journey, but we truly believe there's a great financial impact that we do here. And
Sure.
can you tell us what kind of impact you've had on Max Coding by
Yeah.
doing these processes?
Yeah, I hinted about that. So we last year 2024 was our best year financially ever. And that, if you think about that time frame, that's about when the team was aligned and then we had some things happening in the plant that were getting, the key customer requirements satisfied. In fact, I was going to share with y'all a metric. We used to get, that accuracy standard. I was talking about 100% accuracy, 100% quality,
Mhm.
100% delivery. We would make an accuracy mistake probably twice a week. That was typical of that. We're a good paint shop. I mean, I think our customers were fine. They're not looking for somebody else. Yes, Max Cutting makes a mistake every now and then. That's dropped to about one a month. And I think Dave actually helped me with the math. I mean, that's like a tenfold reduction. When you see that, when you measure that and you know that it's strictly it came because we implemented this KCR focus, this key customer requirement focus, getting the team aligned, processes and making sure the team understands their role and the impact they can have on our customers. All that. That's why we had a great 2024. I don't think there's any question, Billy. And it's funny, you could ask everybody on my management team, why are we here? And I've done it. I've done it at management meetings. So, hey, we're looking at the data. It looks good. Why do you think we're here? And they're talking about the key customer requirements, the brand standard, the mission, the vision, the values. That's what they're talking about. And it's a good feeling to me. I mean, it makes me feel really, really proud.
That's amazing. I love hearing those success stories, especially the impact that it has, because it's cool. The journey's always amazing, but the impact, that's when you really get to feel those goosebumps about what we do.
Sure.
So, one thing we ask everybody that's on this podcast is, who is your favorite operations expert? Who's the one you look to?
Yeah, well, the first guy that comes to mind is David McClaskey. Cool. And I know that's like playing to the home crowd or whatever. Again, funny stories. Went to that class in 2019, and, Dave, he's been going all day, and then he just says, hey, anybody want to go to dinner? And you're like, surely this guy's, he's got to be winding down. Yeah, well, I'll go have dinner with you. And I think 4 or 5 of us went out to dinner with Dave. And hour went by, 2 hours went by. Dave is still talking process perfection, process excellence. 3 hours go 10. And I'm like, man, I got to get up I got to get up tomorrow morning and come to your class. He never wavered in his just passion for what he does. And anyway, I'll never forget that. But yeah, I was the last one to leave the table, and I was proud of that. But I was also soaking it up. I mean, I was learning. He was speaking my language, so it was a good fit. But so it's hard for me to not vote him number one. Now, I will mention this, other entrepreneurs, my accountant, a guy named Greg Crabtree, he's written a couple of books, one of them called Simple Numbers. He really keys in on labor efficiency, the labor efficiency ratio, a way to identify that. In everybody's business, labor is a huge, huge driver. And I like the way he is. So Greg's not necessarily an operations guy, but for another small business owner, I would definitely recommend checking out Simple Numbers, that book that he wrote. I think it's been since 2009, maybe. That book's probably been around 15 or 16 years. So
Greg Crabtree is such an extraordinary individual and has such profound knowledge.
He does.
It is wonderful that you're in his mastermind class and things of that nature. And thank you. You brought back some wonderful memories.
Right.
It's somewhat embarrassing at 10 p.m., but okay.
Yeah. You were still going strong, man. And,
it's so energizing to talk to leaders that really want to make their companies extraordinary like yourself. And there's nothing more energizing than that. And then you went out and did it. So that's absolutely fabulous, Chuck. And we very much appreciate all the wisdom you've shared here during this podcast. And thank you for not only using the material in Max Coatings and making that extraordinary operations, but sharing this with others. It is very much appreciated. And we appreciate you sharing this information on the podcast.
Well, I had fun doing it. Didn't know what to expect, but I think it's like you said, Dave. I just enjoy talking about these things, and I think people around me recognize that. But it's been a pleasant journey. I've really enjoyed it.
Oh, wonderful! Well, thank you so much for being on the show. I mean, it's wonderful to have great leaders like yourself, and we look forward to the next episodes where many, many more great leaders like Chuck will be joining us, and we'll learn more about operational experts because we just really love what we're doing, and we have new ones that are going to be dropping the first and third Monday of every month, and we look forward to you checking them out.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Appreciate it. You too.
Operations Experts was created by McClaskey Excellence Institute. Hosts were David McClaskey, president of McClaskey Excellence Institute, and Billy Schaefer, vice president of McClaskey Excellence Institute. The podcast was produced and edited by Kate Craig of Kate Craig Consulting. New episodes drop the first and third Monday of every month on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, Amazon Music. Find us online at McClaskeyExcellence.com and register for our Achieving World-Class Results course to enable your organization to deliver exactly what you promised every time using extraordinary operations.